I want to pose a question to you and to me. Are we making history, or are we allowing history to be made for us? Are we living a biography, something happening to us, recording the events of our lives, or are we writing an autobiography, taking the pen ourselves and saying, this starts with I, this ends with me? I'm part of a story that ultimately is being written around me, the events of the world, and even events in my own world, in my own life, but I have to have a certain amount of autonomy, efficacy. I have to have the ability and recognize that I do have the ability to make changes that matter, and to not only act, but also to react in ways that make sense and that make betterment, that make for betterment. So let me give you another way to think about it. I've often talked about this idea of dividing our life into a pie chart to make it simple. And the fact that the majority of that pie chart is essentially stuff that relies on choices. Things that happen to us that when we're honest with ourselves, we say, yeah, I made choices. When I do root cause analysis, look back and ultimately see what it was that caused those events to happen, I'm in there. I have a part in it. I was a player in that. Rather than saying the opposite, which is I'm a victim. Stuff happens to me. I have no ability to do anything about it. All I do is I get buffeted around. Life throws me in different directions, and I fall and I get up, and I fall and I get up. That's a tragic life. That's the life of a pinball. Remember pinball machines? So you pull that lever with the spring. I don't know if it's a lever. You pull it back, and that metal ball would go careening forward, and then the fun would start. It would start getting buffeted side to side. Everything would push it around until ultimately it would inevitably, eventually end up in that little drain hole at the bottom. If that's life, God help you. Sometimes that happens though, and it may be happening right now during this period in our lives, that we feel like we have little control. Stuff is happening to us and around us because of a virus, because of government decrees, because of society, because of our employer. And we may feel that we have less power than we ever did before. But nobody can ever take the certain powers away that you have. And those are how you're going to spend today. And those are what you're going to do about the feelings that arise during the course of a day. And those are how you're going to treat other people. And those are how creative you're going to be, generative at any age and point in your life. And those are the kind of mistakes of yesterday that you want to correct today and tomorrow. And those are the character development that you're invested in at this point in your life. So there's so much that goes on while the world is swimming around us that's important. And some of that is key to happiness and contentment. And that is seeing beauty and recognizing it. And then from that, cultivating gratitude and recognizing it. And from that, cultivating generosity of spirit. In other words, seeing the world as beautiful, seeing actual beauty around you in conversation, in a leaf, in a plant, in a flower, in a view, in a relationship. And from that, gratitude that you'll inevitably feel if you invest in it. Saying, so what must I do because I'm this fortunate? Sometimes we think that changing the world, repairing the world is so big and so overwhelming that the world is just too far away from us. We're just small people, every one of us. Nobody can do enough. And yet I sometimes think the world is a breath away from you. It's right in front of you. It's the person 2 steps away from you who needs your listening ear, who needs food, who needs compassion, who needs education, who needs to be uplifted, who needs to be inspired by you, who's waiting to be brought to laughter by you, who's waiting for new perspective because you're in their lives capable of giving that to them. So you and I must never be overwhelmed, because overwhelmed is ultimately that part of the pie chart at the bottom that looks a little like this. It's that size. It's not most of the pie. And that is when we're victims, when stuff is happening to us and stuff happens. We know that. But then what we're called to do is to be responsible responders. To say, okay, I'm down on the ground. Now I need to get up and be thoughtful about my next steps. So I hope these words are helpful. All of us, I think, are in modes, as we are in the rest of life, but it's it's different during this period of thinking, okay, what actual power do I have at age 11? What actual power do I have at age 99 or 55 or any age in between? I would say we have quite a bit of power, and we must use it to the best of our ability.